Da-da-da. That's right, folks. This week in Lower Decks, we're off to DS9. Hi, guys. I'm Nick, and welcome back to the channel. Episode 6 of Season 3 DS9 takes us back to DS9, and what a treat this episode was in the rundown of Lower Decks episodes this season. Really good episode. Cast cameos from Kira, from Quark. It was a really great trip down memory lane in this episode, and today we're going to be talking all about Episode 6, Hear All, Trust Nothing. Guys, if you haven't subscribed to Sci-Finatics yet, please do so. Click on that big red button to stay up to date and current with all the latest Star Trek news on YouTube. So for starters, I wanted to say, I'm not sure what they did to the animation style for this week's episode, but it certainly looked like it was far more detailed than we've seen previous episodes of Lower Decks. DS9 looked amazing. The Cerritos looked amazing. It looked like they'd refined some of the animation stylings to increase the level of detail in some of the models and the look of the ships and everything. So whatever they're doing, I think the bar has been raised a little bit in this episode, so hopefully that continues in future episodes. This week's episode sees the Cerritos and our Lower Deckers in negotiations with the Karima. Now, this is a race we've seen before in DS9. There was a couple of episodes of DS9 where we saw the Karima. They were traders from the Gamma Quadrant. They were part of the Dominion. I think they were sort of associates of the Vorta or something. We saw an episode, one of the episodes was the one memorable one I can remember, is the one where the Defiant gets severely damaged and Quark gets trapped in a part of the Defiant. There's like an unexploded torpedo or something. He has to kind of work with this other Karima guy, played by James Cromwell, who we would remember as being most notably remembered for playing Zefram Cochrane in Star Trek First Contact. He played an alien Karima in an episode of DS9. And there was another episode or two where we saw them as well in DS9. So it was kind of good to have that through line of continuity and seeing a Gamma Quadrant race that we've seen a couple of times before. We also get to find out a bit more about Quark and the fact that he's franchised his bar. Obviously the one on DS9 is the original, but we've seen other iterations of Quark's bar before, I think in other episodes of Lower Decks and in Star Trek Picard, on Free Cloud and everything. So it appears like Quark's doing all right for himself. He's got franchises of his bar all over the Alpha Quadrant. And what a treat it was in this episode to not only have Quark back again, obviously voiced by Armin Shimmerman, but also Colonel Kira Nerys, obviously played by Nana Visitor. Great to see these guys back again. It was such an awesome hit of nostalgia, seeing, you know, the promenade of DS9, looking at Quarks again, Ops and everything on DS9. Kira's in, you know, Cisco's office. He's still got the baseball on the desk and everything. What a great trip down memory lane this episode was of DS9. I think we tend to get a lot of references in Lower Decks and other shows of, you know, other Star Trek series, but I feel like DS9 and also probably Star Trek Enterprise are the two kind of forgotten children that sort of maybe get the least amount of love in terms of references and callbacks and so forth. So it was really good to spend this episode on DS9. I loved the fact that Kira and Shax were friends. They were kind of in the Resistance together, and I loved the competitive nature between these two, trying to always one-up each other in terms of who owed who the most amount of, I don't know, life saves or whatever, where, you know, Kira was talking about how many times she saved Shax's life, and Shax was trying to one-up her about how many times he'd saved her life. Getting a little bit of backstory about history between these two characters, I think, was really nice. I think it would have seemed odd if them both being Bajoran or whatever, characters that we're fond of, that they didn't know each other from a bar of soap. I loved the fact that these guys had a history with each other. And it was so awesome seeing Quark's bar. We've obviously got Morn sitting there. Still here, he hasn't moved. He's a staple at Quark's bar. Great to see him back there again. And also Quark. I did a video a while back with the trailer and kind of speculated as to what characters we're most likely to see turn up. And I pretty much nailed it. I thought Kira and Quark were the two most logical choices. I was on the money for that one. I also got a sense that they got the voices right too. I thought maybe they might just get Armin Shimmerman in to voice Quark as he is behind the microphone, and it might not sound quite right, but it definitely sounded like they actually had Armin Shimmerman wear his prosthetic Ferengi teeth when he voiced the character. Because there's certainly that sort of mouthful of marbles kind of, you know, vocal idiosyncrasies that you got when he was playing Quark that you obviously couldn't get around with him wearing false teeth for the role. And I think it was good that they got him to kind of wear something or put something in his mouth or whatever the case was when he was voicing Quark in this episode, because I don't think it would have quite sounded right unless he was doing that as well. And I think they definitely got him to do that in this episode. A large part of this episode was also Tendi dealing with Mesk, the other male Orion character that they happened to bump into on DS9, and him just kind of perpetuating all of those Orion stereotypes that we've heard so many times before, the piracy and everything. And it turns out that he's a big faker. He was actually raised on Earth with human parents, and he's just sort of faking all of the Orionisms or whatever just to kind of perpetuate the stereotype, because that's what people expect. But it definitely seems like Tendi one-upped him in terms of her level of Orion pirating experience. Obviously her family a little bit more involved in the whole Orion piracy network than perhaps she's previously led on. And obviously we saw some great moves from her using that Orion multi-tool or whatever to get themselves out of a bit of a jam. She knew all the tricks of the trade. And it seems like, whether we get to see a bit more or learn a bit more about Tendi's past before coming to Starfleet in terms of what shenanigans she got up to in the whole Orion pirating business. I love all the little tropes from DS9 we saw in this episode, from the Darbo tables, and Boimler having fun there, winning at Darbo. We had Rutherford hanging his legs over the promenade like Jake and Nog used to do in DS9 on a regular basis. That was kind of fun. And it was interesting to learn more about how I guess Quark had expanded upon his business and put these Quark 2000 replicators that just, replicated drinks in a particular way that just made them a little bit more genuine and a bit less kind of synth-holly, I suppose. And the technology that he'd used to manufacture these replicators had some Karima technology installed in them, which was why originally we thought the Karima were kidnapping Quark, but they were just kind of hauling him off for, I guess, copyright breach or stealing technology or something to that effect. That he'd certainly used some Karima replicated technology to make his Quark 2000 special replicators in this episode, and what he's obviously used to expand his business throughout the quadrant. I felt a little bad for Tonya Newsom in this episode, because I know she is a huge DS9 fan, and DS9 is her favourite Star Trek series out of all of them, and she basically spent her character the entire episode, except for the end bit, hanging out with a bunch of female characters who are all melting candles and doing incense and, scenting candles and meditating and speaking their truth and doing all that sort of, hippie kind of new agey kind of stuff, which she just wasn't into at all. It was kind of, you could tell she was getting irritated and everything throughout the whole episode. But it appears that Jennifer just brought her into the group to basically get her to speak her mind and to call them all out on their sort of, somewhat annoying hobbies. But at least at the end of the episode, she got to, stun them all to preserve oxygen when the power went down, which I would guess was kind of funny as well. And we also got our first lesbian kiss in this episode between Mariner and Jennifer. At least she did get that one scene at the end of the episode with Quark at Quark's bar, and it appears that Mariner has hold of a copy of the holographic moment from the DS9 Season 3 Episode 8, episode called Meridian, where a holodeck program that Quark was trying to sell to a trader ended up being modified so that Quark's head ended up on Kira's body.
I've been waiting for you.
I remember the episode, it was quite a funny moment in DS9, and it appears that Mariner had a copy of this that she was kind of using to hold over Quark, and at the end, Kira comes in and tries to get her hands on this this copy of this holodeck program. So that was a real funny moment to think that that the Mariner had her hands on this classic moment. All in all, I thought this was a great episode of Lower Decks. I think from now to the end of the season, we'll be getting some, really interesting episodes. I know we've got an episode coming up, which is the big holodeck episode, the Crisis Point 2 episode coming up. What a great trip down memory lane this was in Lower Decks. Seeing Kira again, seeing Quark again, seeing DS9 again, some really cool moments, and it was just a who's who and a what's what of all those of things we loved to see from DS9. So what a cool episode I thought this was. But guys, tell me what you thought of this episode. Leave your thoughts in the comments section. Did you like this episode? Did you love all these little references and harkbacks to DS9. That it's been a while since we've seen stuff from DS9, so I think it was cool to catch up on what things have been going on this side of the Bajoran wormhole. As always, guys, please leave a super thanks if you're able to. Really helps the channel out. Also check out the merch store where you can pick up all the manner of t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, caps, all that sort of stuff. Always on sale. You know, there's always a special going on, so be sure to check that out to pick up a cool t-shirt or something for yourself. Helps support the channel as well. And subscribe if you haven't already done so. Guys, I'll be back very soon with my next video. I'll catch you soon.